Welcome back to Mark Holbus Vlog. Thanks for joining in, guys. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we spoke about the F Type, but here we are again. Let's catch up on this again. And there's been a lot of videos, there's lots of documentation on how these cars perform. 0 to 60 this, top speed that, cornering G's this, they brake like this many feet. But in my opinion, there's a lot of longer standing reasons why an F Type is really a great car to own. Now, a lot of you guys are gonna explain, yeah, don't own them out of warranty because they will drive you in the poorhouse, and there may be some truth to that. Lord knows they're not the most reliable vehicles. Very few Jaguars are. But the question, are they that bad? Well, probably not quite as bad as a lot of people make them out to be. But there are things you need to know. But let's get into some reasons why, in my opinion, that they are actually worthwhile holding on for the long term. But before we dive into the video, let's talk about today's featured comment from last week's video on my family trip down to Phoenix and Vegas. And this comment is by Thomas Helm, who had commented, "Oh my God, that valley, I drove it. Moving my son down to Vegas in a moving truck, pitch dark, raining, lightning. Without question, the most frightening drive I've ever experienced." Well, Thomas, you are absolutely right. I've also had that. Thanks for reaching out, much appreciated. I had a similar drive. We actually went through that same valley, going through just on the north side of St. George, Utah, heading southbound towards Vegas, and we were coming in there. It was a little bit later in the evening, and all of a sudden we got caught in that valley, and it was just a deluge. We got hammered with the rain, so bad in fact the wipers could not keep up, and we essentially had to pull over because all I could see was semi-truck headlights, taillights, and all I knew was we were in trouble. We couldn't even see the edges of the roads, and it was just downright nasty. Boy, did they get rains down there. Thanks again, Thomas, for your comment. I mean, these cars do a lot of great things, and honestly, a big part of why, in my opinion, you'd want to get rid of a car very, very soon. Part of it is, of course, if the car's constantly in the shop, but that's a given. I think anybody who has a car that it spends every other week in the shop, nobody wants to hold on to that. But say hypothetically, you're just living in fear of the car going in the shop, but the car never actually lets you down. I mean, I think that's where these cars fit into that criteria. They're always there in the back of your mind, the expensive repairs that could happen, but most often they don't. When they do, sure, they're big and they can be expensive and nasty, but they're not always that way. And there's reasons why you really do want to hold on to these cars. But I'm going to show you an example right now, one main reason why you'd want to hold on to these. I mean, look right here, for example. What is all of this salt? I mean, you've got the grimy roads all over in wintertime here, and all of this salt really results in early onset of rust. I mean, look at that. This is a car with relatively low kilometers, and it's not that old. This is a 2013 and is starting to rust. How about this? Right there, another good example, rust. Why? Because it's the slop that the city puts on the roads, all over the place. You want another example? How about right there? So as you can see, there seems to be a little bit of a trend, but to me, that's one of the main reasons why the F Type is actually a car worth holding on for the long term. Let's do a little walkie and talkie here. I mean, you look around the car, we have aluminum, does not rust. We have plastic. We have more aluminum and more. And we have plastic down here, aluminum up here, glass on the top and the back. This is aluminum and this is plastic. As you can see, this is flexible right there, that's plastic. So you're starting to pick up on the theme that where I'm going with this is the car is actually very sustainable. Underneath we have a stainless steel exhaust system. And then if we pop the hood, let's pop that hood right there. And this entire hood assembly is made out of aluminum. Everything is made out of aluminum. This is all aluminum. Nothing here will rust, which is a beautiful thing. You've got an engine, although while it's expensive to repair if something happens to it. And another thing worth mentioning is the engine under here. It's a 5-liter V8, which is fundamentally based on a Ford. That's right, it's not too far disconnected from a Mustang GT engine. So, while if there are things that go wrong, they're not super exotic. This car is not ultra exotic in the sense of the drivetrain. The drivetrain is actually relatively mainstream. Sure, a supercharger's on there, that's a wearing part, and an engine like anything else can wear out. But it's not like some high-strung V12 hypercar that you get out of Italy. No, this is a Ford V8. And as such, it's not excessively insane to repair or do any maintenance on. As well, the gearbox that's tucked down in there, that's a ZF, sure, it's a European box, not that cheap to fix, but again, still a lot cheaper to fix than a dual clutch that you'll find in a lot of the modern day supercars. So all of these parts in this car are very sustainable. In other words, the car won't rot out on you, it will just hold its own. I mean, sure, you'll get rock chips and scratches, but it won't rust out. And so that really brings me to why I'm talking about this today. And these cars are actually very sustainable. Now again, we talk about things like this can be very expensive. Sure, the glass on the roof can be pricey, as can the windshield. I mean, I spoke about that in previous videos where this can cost you, let's say, $2,500. So there are expensive parts on these cars, and God forbid something happens to the aluminum structure, that gets very, very expensive to replace as well. But it's not like some, super exclusive vehicle. I mean, even think about McLarens and some of the costs associated with that. I mean, it's not like even a McLaren. I mean, this was pointed out to by one of my viewers and subscribers had mentioned on a comment on one of my last videos about the cost of a McLaren for upgrades. I mean, if a McLaren breaks, can you imagine how expensive things can be? Did you know McLaren offers an extended warranty for 60, 70 grand US, gives you 9 years of extra warranty, which all it does is essentially cover the engine and the electrics, but a lot of the other components are still not covered under that warranty. All that does is buy you a slight peace of mind for the next 9 years. That is huge bucks. Sure, these cars are pricey, but the beauty is they won't rot away on you. They're not going to rust away like some of those other cars I just showed you, and the engine and the gearbox and any other mechanical part in these cars is actually relatively easy to change out. Sure, it all comes at a bit of a cost, and it's not cheap like a base Toyota Corolla. However, it's not the kind of vehicle that you have to worry about it disappearing. So far, it's well supported. Parts are accessible. There's a bit of an aftermarket support on these vehicles, and quite frankly, I believe that they're unique enough that they're ultimately going to have enough following that years down the road, there's still going to be some value here. Jags, while they do depreciate significantly, it's not like the X Type of old. Remember the old X Type used that Ford engine, that little 4-cylinder engine? It was just a head gasket muncher, and it was just kind of a gross little car for the most part. Those cars were problematic, and they weren't worth that much to begin with, and they were just too mainstream, and they basically sank into oblivion in terms of value. But the F Type is unique enough. The performance is there. There's enough exotic appeal. And even though values are going to slump a little bit, I mean, a lot of people are scared to hold on to these once they're, say, 8, 9, 10 years old. There's still enough value there. And the numbers in production are low enough, and of course some have been wrecked along the way, that there's going to be value on holding on to these. They're not going to just rot away in your garage. These are definitely worth holding on to. And that is why, in my opinion, other than the obvious factors, 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds and 550 horsepower supercharged and a 1.1 G in the cornering, and all of those factors are very cool and interesting. But the fact of the matter is you want a car that is sustainable, is not going to rot away, and honestly won't necessarily eat your entire bank account alive. The F Type R, that's truly another great reason why these cars are worth owning, in my opinion. Well, what do you guys think? Again, I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button over there. I'd love for you guys to join in. Looking for that support, and for all those who have supported thus far, really do appreciate it, guys, from the bottom of my heart. Don't forget that comment. We'll get into it next video. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.